Darkcast Network. Indie pods with a dark side.
Are you drawn to the dark? Do you find yourself enticed in the forbidden and ominous? Join me, Steph, as I explore all things menacing and malevolent in my podcast, Sinister Story Hour. I discuss true stories of cults and crimes, with the occasional urban legend. I also dedicate episodes to missing persons in the United States. And you could be the missing link to provide information and clues that will help to bring them home. Join me every week for a new story. Come on in, sit down, and get ready, because it's story time.
Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way.
Mountain Murders is an Appalachian true crime podcast. Some content may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
We say
hey,
fuck
y'all,
a
welcome
lot.
back to Mountain Murders. I'm Heather.
And I'm the sweaty Dillon.
Oh, you're always something, Dillon.
Oh my gosh, it's so hot.
Dillon, you love a modifier. You love an adjective.
Yeah, I do like to describe the nouns.
So you're sweaty.
And the action words.
And I am like a lumpy Heather today. Look, I ordered a swimsuit. I've looked for weeks, months even, for the perfect swimsuit.
Yeah.
Something that's going to kind of be cute, but also cover up the parts I don't want revealed, which is most of my body. Okay, so I find the swimsuit online, and it looks super cute on all the models, of course.
They have a bunch of different models.
All the body sizes look great. Order this thing. It takes like a month for it to get here. So I'm anticipating like my swimsuit. I get an email. It's arriving today. See the mailman walk up. I'm super excited because I'm like, yes, Mr. Postman, got my swimsuit. Go out, grab it, tear it open. So excited. Try it on. OMG, Dillon.
I thought you were cute in it.
It's awful.
I love my wife.
My boobs were like hanging out of the top.
I can't believe
it needs support.
Yes.
And I just wish the swimsuit had taunted me from the website, like you're going to look fat if you order me.
And just show a bunch of models who aren't happy in the swimsuit.
And then I could have just saved my money because it looks terrible.
It does not seem to be the same swimsuit that they had on the site because it's not performing the way the one on the site was.
I don't know who's supposed to wear it. I mean, my boobs are like kind of popping out the side, the top, the bottom.
I know.
There's no support whatsoever. And it made me feel terrible. And I'm like, despite the fact that I've been working out for months, I'm nowhere near where I want to be physically. And it's really depressing. So now I'm in a sour mood.
Oh, baby, no. Don't be sour.
So then I just ate my feelings, like 4 bowls of pasta.
You didn't eat 4 bowls.
I know, but I could have.
Well, it was really good pasta.
I felt sad.
No, but here's the thing. You've changed tremendously. I see changes all around you and through you. And just keep up the hard work. You're doing great. You're doing great. And you look great.
I need a motivational speaker.
I think you're beautiful.
Speech from you.
I can be your hype man.
Be my hype man. You hype up everybody.
I can hype you up. That's not true.
And that's because you'll be like, I was like, does this like look terrible? And you're like, well, it's not the worst looking swimsuit I've ever seen.
Not. That's a lie.
That is totally what you said.
That is a damn lie. I was asleep. I was awakened from my slumber.
You can't even speak.
And I was woken. And I think it's still, you act like it was a total loss.
It was a total loss.
It was not.
Well, then you wear the fucking thing.
I'm going to wear it. We're not wasting that money.
I'm going to put you in the swimsuit. We'll take a photo. We'll stick it on Instagram and let people decide. We'll let the people decide, Dillon.
Well, I'm sure.
Is this your swimsuit? Yes or no?
Okay. I think it will accentuate my calves.
I think so. All the curves.
I'm sure you're not the only one going through this.
I hate swimsuit season.
Your expectations when you order something, because I did order what was purported to be tactical pants, and they were like tactical pajamas. I mean, they were so ridiculously cheap and thin, and all the zippers felt like they were going to pop off. They're pockets for no reason. There's like a 2-inch pocket on the side of the leg that goes like around the leg.
I thought you had freedom of movement in the pants.
Well, I have a exceptional range of motion, which you do need in tactical situations. But what am I going to put in this pocket? Like something that's 1 inch by 8 inches long? I mean, what the hell?
Like a Skittle? Like some Skittles?
Yeah,
that's about all you're going to be armed with anyway, let's be honest.
Wild berry, baby.
See?
Let's go.
Some trolleys.
All right, here we are. We're going to bring you back up.
Here we are.
Here we are. This is quality
if you
audio.
lived here, you would be home by now.
Wow, what are you, a commercial?
Perhaps.
I can't wait to dig into the case you've been working so diligently on.
Diligently, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
While you waited for your swimsuit
Check
to
out
let
the
you
big
down.
brain on Dillon. Okay. We actually have an interesting case to talk about today, Dillon. And I discovered this while I was researching last week's case on Gina Grant. So let's get into it.
Let's go ahead and dive straight in.
Dillon, South Carolina. No relation to you.
See, I'm so cool they have an entire town named after me.
Spelled differently. Dillon.
Well, I mean, they can't be perfect.
Are you familiar with Dillon at all?
I have never heard of Dillon, South
Well, I
Carolina.
kind of figured that. So, Dillon, let's talk about Dillon. Dillon, South Carolina runs west of the Little PD River in northeastern South Carolina, known as the wedding capital of the East.
Oh, wow.
Girls as young as 14 would travel to the area to get married, as the state formerly had relaxed marriage laws. And this is according to a 1993 article published in the LA Times. So up until recent years, child marriage was essentially legal in South Carolina.
A grown person can marry a 14-year-old.
Yes. And I do believe they had to have like parental consent, but it was like you didn't have a waiting period. It was super easy.
You didn't have to
To
have
get
any.
the marriage license. You didn't have to do all the like blood tests and that kind of thing.
You didn't have to talk to authorities.
Not really. Not really.
You didn't have to be canceled.
But I was thinking about this, Dillon. Many older folks that I know, like of older generations that maybe have since passed, kind of would elope, or they would go to South Carolina to get married.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I know my grandparents, my great-grandparents, they all traveled to South Carolina, because I remember my Nana telling me they found a justice of the peace and he wouldn't marry them until the Lawrence Welk show was finished. He had to watch his show first.
Well, hey, back then you didn't have another chance, so he must have been into it.
Many of the couples who married in Dillon were sent to south of the border for their honeymoons. Are you familiar with south of the border?
I have heard of south of the border.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it started as kind of like a bit of a place where you could go get the beers and the party liquors, because some counties were dry back then. And then it kind of evolved. They added hotels and it sort of became a thing,
So it's like South Carolina's Tijuana.
Sure.
Yeah, well, I know they do advertise a lot for
They
it.
have billboards everywhere.
If you go anywhere
like
near it,
sombreros and stuff.
yeah, within 100 miles of it, you have these huge kind of funny billboards.
Yeah, I've never been. I've actually never been to south of the border, but I feel like that should be on our list of road trip destinations. Okay. So according to the Dillon Marriage Chapel, more than 7,000 weddings take place each year in the town. So it's still a popular spot for destination weddings.
Hey, you guys meet me down there south of the border, down there in Dillon.
But the actual town of Dillon has only around 5,000 residents. So I just thought that was kind of amusing that you get about 2,000 more residents coming through to get married than you actually have living there, or people coming through to get married than actually live in the town.
So it still actually has a viable economy based around wedding people.
I suppose it does, Dillon.
It'd have to be. Yeah, that's quite a few considering such a small community.
Well, timber harvesting remains a major industry in Dillon County, with agricultural products like cotton and tobacco being a staple of farming. Of course, farming more prevalent back in the day. Recently, the area has seen a growth in manufacturing and distribution centers, in part due to Interstate 95, which runs through the county. In 2018, Dillon Inland Port was constructed, furthering economic growth based on the Port of Charleston. Over 54% of the population in Dillon County, or the town of Dillon, is Black or African American, with the median household income around $30,000. So more than 30% of the population lives in poverty.
Wow. That's a high. It's got to be a high number. You know, it's interesting in the modern world. Used to, these small communities or towns would have, factories, textiles, mills of various sorts that made things. And now in the modern global economy, what you see, because it still happens because the taxes are low, there's availability of a workforce, but now it's distribution centers are literally everywhere. These huge hubs,
Yes,
that simply handle freight or orders that usually come from international carriers of some sort.
in the 1980s and 1990s, Dillon, like many areas, was hit hard by the crack epidemic. I-95 is a major drug corridor, as we've discussed when we were speaking on the episode about the missing and murdered women in the Lumberton area.
Yeah.
We talked pretty extensively about the drug trade and I-95 being like a major transportation hub for drugs.
Now that's when one that comes up out of Florida, right?
I believe so, yeah.
It's always been a major drug corridor.
Yes, absolutely.
That feeds the rest of the country or the whole East Coast.
So for years, allegations circulated that the Williamsburg County Sheriff, Wayne Lambert, was involved in drug trafficking and had even sold cocaine from his department's vault. An FBI investigation into the well-liked sheriff determined that Lambert had protected drug organizations, provided the groups with cocaine seized by the department, alerted these groups to upcoming raids, and helped them grow marijuana.
See, this is disturbing because that is almost the same exact description of issues in Robertson County and the Lumberton area. These corrupt officials, corrupt sheriffs, literally protecting drug interests.
Lambert, his son, and 21 others pled guilty to racketeering, cocaine conspiracy, and marijuana trafficking. And there are several reasons I mention this information in relation to our case today, Dillon. Firstly, I thought we could talk about the fact that drugs are a major problem in the area during this time frame of the case we'll be discussing. So as we all know, many who are in the throes of addiction or engaging in criminal activity are often unwilling to work with police.
Right.
So
Obviously.
if you're an addict, a lot of times, or a drug user, they're not going to believe anything you say because you're, you were on drugs, so what do you know? But also those people who might be doing drugs or have an addiction, that kind of thing, might be funding that through illegal means.
Right.
So they don't necessarily trust the police and don't really want to work with the police.
Even when it's in their best interest to cooperate with the cops, if you will, they're not gonna. They're just used to going the other way when they see police.
And when the community is unhelpful in these situations, often it leaves cases cold because you need law enforcement and the community to work together to solve cases. And if someone knows something, but they're unwilling to speak to law enforcement or come forward or share information or details, then investigators don't have the tips and leads to follow.
Well, yeah, look in the years of stories that you've covered. If you remove witnesses or witness statements or eyewitness accounts out of investigations, how many of those investigations would have went nowhere?
Secondly, the fact that law enforcement officials are knowingly part of a criminal network, even if it's in other counties in South Carolina and not necessarily the county we'll be discussing today, I think that can make people who are already kind of ill at ease with law enforcement uncooperative.
Yeah.
Because they don't trust the police.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
And they think, well, if the sheriff 2 counties over is, doing the dirt, what makes me think my local sheriff isn't involved in something like that?
Well, yeah, and you see that kind of attitude in some of these some other countries is people know that the police are corrupt, very corrupt in areas, so that just leads them to not trust the police as a whole.
In 2024, we also know that Black communities have been targeted for decades, often harassed, terrorized by law enforcement, which creates a divide and mistrust. And these are all factors I believe that play a part in today's case.
Okay. That sounds like
so maybe later you can let me know what you think.
I will try.
Shakeima Ann Cabbagestalk was born on December 29th, 1982 in Dillon. Little is known about her biological father, but her mother Shirley was from a large, close-knit family. With Dillon being a small town, many residents were related, and the surname Cabbagestalk, though unusual, is a pretty common name in this area and in some parts of South Carolina.
I gotta say, that's one of the most colorful surnames I've ever heard.
I'm going to give you a little info on it.
Okay.
Shakeima was a 5th grader at Gordon Elementary School. And because Cabbagestalk was such a unique name, at least, in our parts of the world, maybe not in other parts, I was like, oh, that's kind of an interesting surname. So I started to kind of research where it came from, Dillon. And Cabbagestalk is derived from a German surname, Kohlstruck.
Okay.
However, in the United States, it is historically a black surname. In my research, I discovered that many free slaves who were on plantations chose the name Cabbagestalk instead of taking their former master's last name.
Okay.
Which, I guess, I'm not going to say it was common to do that back in the day, but it does seem like a lot of free men and women did assume the name of the plantation owner or where they were previously, right? So it has been traced to a cabbage plantation in the Florida Panhandle as far as I can tell.
Well, I'm glad it had something to do with cabbage.
Yes, a cabbage plantation.
Hey, I want to be named Cabbage Leaf.
Okay.
That's my new name, Dillon Cabbage Leaf.
I'm sure you can change it.
I think Cabbagestalk. It actually...
There's actually a pretty well-known news reporter in South Carolina, Shakeima Cabbagestalk.
Oh, okay.
That I found through my research.
It sounds like a powerful name.
I know. I thought it was kind of cool. I liked it.
Yeah, I think it's dope.
On July 22nd, 1993, Shakeima was last seen at Turning Point Grocery Store on South First Avenue in Dillon. It was a neighborhood convenience store known to Shakeima and many of the other children in the neighborhood, and I've seen it referred to as a convenience store and also a grocery store. So I'm imagining it's probably one of those little convenience stores, but you could stop and get like milk and eggs and some of the staples, maybe a few canned goods.
Yeah, they probably got your Vieners and your Beanie Weenies and some saltines if you're lucky. And it's just a little country mart, as I grew up knowing them as. You know, you can get a little bit of laundry detergent. I mean, it was really like a precursor to a Dollar General in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So Shakeima reportedly was shopping with her brother Kenneth and stepdad Sam Harmon. When Shakeima didn't show up at her family's home, Shirley assumed her daughter had spent the night with her grandmother, Clara Cabbagestalk. The next day, Shirley discovered that Shakeima had not spent the night with Clara. Shakeima, her brother Kevin, and sister Samantha would often stay over at the grandmother's house. It seems that she lived nearby, and throughout the day, they would kind of pop over at grandma's house, hang out, maybe, play, spend some time, get a snack, then
eat,
kind of go home, wait for mom to get off work, that kind of thing. And so, they would pop over sometimes and just stay the night.
So basically, if they're not at home, they're probably at grandma's house.
Yeah. And I started thinking about that and I was like, well, gosh, if my kid didn't show up, I wouldn't just assume that they had stayed at grandma's house. But this was a different time as well. I mean, this was in the 1990s, early 90s. Things were just kind of different back then.
It is. And I think this is something you may even find in today. Just big families, you're always at aunts, uncles, hanging out with cousins, you're not always sure, you might not always be sure exactly where your children are because they have a lot of people that love them, take them off swimming, doing different things. And, we grew up in a hyper-vigilant era when there was a scary man on the aisle over from you. I mean, we were just, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? A literal PSA that played every night at 10. And I think before that time, things were a little more, and the world maybe seemed more innocent, even though I think the world's always been horrible. But I think parents just thought differently. You know what I mean?
Well, they did.
Like you hear stories
and I
often.
think even in small towns, though we did kind of grow up in that era of like, John Walsh on TV, America's Most Wanted, and kids on milk cartons and that kind of thing. In small towns, you still had kids out playing till dark. Parents don't know where they are.
Right.
They come home at supper time.
Yeah, and everybody in town knows whose kids those are, and everybody kind of keeps an eye on them.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But Clara told Shirley she had not seen the little girl. She had not seen her granddaughter. When Sam Harmon was asked about Shakeima's location, he told his wife that he had left the child at the store with her brother. Yet witnesses at the store told law enforcement that Shakeima left with Sam Harmon. Sam Harmon later denied seeing Shakeima at the store at all. Harmon told investigators he had seen Shakeima on the evening of July 21st when he'd gotten home from work, but not the next day, July 22nd, when she'd gone missing.
See, at this point, I'm assuming that everyone's starting to worry a little bit. A lot.
Absolutely.
Right.
So it's not until like the next day, the day after she goes missing, that Shirley files a police report for her daughter. After filing a missing persons report for Shakeima, law enforcement officials searched the wooded areas around the girl's neighborhood on Beaufort Street. A helicopter was also used in the search efforts. With little information and no evidence to follow, Dillon police reached out to SLED, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, to assist with search efforts. Shakeima was last seen wearing a multicolored pair of shorts, a white shirt with a multicolored pattern on the front. She was also wearing pearl earrings. Now, during the early stages of the investigation, two of Shakeima's cousins told police they'd seen the girl get into a vehicle across the street from the Turning Point store with two males. The car had headed north once it left the parking lot.
Oh, my God.
1 month later, Police Lieutenant Lorenzo Owens told the press, quote,
But like, listen up, police.
"We're still checking leads, hoping to find a trace of the little girl, but so far we've come up empty. We've just been getting a lot of stories and none of them are leading us anywhere. We've put a lot of time and effort in. It's a slow process."
That's so scary, man. I mean, it never fails. I always think about the poor families and just that. I mean, I've had just a brief flash of that feeling. Like, that your kid's lost or gone or missing or whatever you want to call it. But they always turned right up, you know. But it's just it's like a punch in the gut, you know.
It is.
And to actually go through checking everywhere they might be, checking with all friends and family, and then having like the whole town turn out and authorities with all the equipment they can muster and no hide nor hair of them, I could only imagine how terrible you would feel.
I don't want to know that feeling.
No, I don't either. And I don't think, I mean, parents that have lost a kid to this describe like a hole that they deal with every single day of their life for the rest of their life.
In the weeks following Shakeima's disappearance, the Maple Church of God raised $1,000 in reward money for information leading to her location. Law enforcement officials made a disturbing discovery in their search for Shakeima. In October of 1990, they learned Shakeima accused her stepfather, Sam Harmon, of inappropriately touching her.
Oh my gosh.
According to Shakeima, Harmon had offered to take her out for a fast food breakfast before dropping her at school. Now, Dillon, when I was a kid, the promise of getting a fast food breakfast before school, like someone was going to take me to get a biscuit or something, oh yeah.
It was a big deal.
I was on board.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
You're telling me I'm going to get one of those crispy little hash brown cakes from McDonald's and the ketchup?
Dude, I just wanted like a jelly biscuit.
Oh, dang, girl.
Just a butter biscuit and I could put some jelly on it.
That's all you wanted?
Oh, yeah. That was my go-to.
Man, I like a sausage biscuit with just a little yellow mustard on it.
Right, that's good too.
Yeah. Damn.
But instead, Sam Harmon drove her to a secluded area where he, quote, attempted to cause harm to Shakeima.
What a piece of shit. If this is true, I mean, come on. Who does this? Who sets this up knowing the whole time that they just want to get the child off by themselves so they can abuse them? I mean, I honestly just don't get it.
Shakeima's allegations of molestation were reported to social services, who launched an investigation in 1990. Shakeima reportedly changed her story several times, and no charges were filed. Yet, we know that children are poor historians. We all know that kids who are sexually abused face extreme trauma. When young girls are hurt by adults, they learn secrecy, shame, and that sex measures self-worth. Boundaries don't matter, and no one can be trusted. To survive trauma, children learn coping strategies like denial, self-blame, and unconscious reenactment of the unresolved traumatic experiences. So for a child like Shakeima to come forward at all can be incredibly difficult. And the fact that she changed her story isn't, in my opinion, a measure of her credibility.
No, and God forbid they don't get full unadulterated support if they do make allegations. I mean, God forbid someone's like, "Are you sure?" Or maybe you just misunderstood, or outright saying you're lying. They would never do that, because that's when someone's been victimized, that's maybe the worst thing ever. When you're trying to get help and no one believes you.
Well, she's a child. She's scared, confused. To adults, a child's response may not seem rational or like it makes sense. But to a kid, they are behaving rationally based on their worldview and experience.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So even if her story is, maybe not 100% like, clear cut, that doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Well, she didn't know that someone was going to, do something to her, so she wasn't taking notes. You know what I mean? She might not have all the details exactly right. But, and now false allegations do happen. It's happened before. But in a situation like this, you have to err on the side of the victim until proven otherwise. And that's the way I view it.
Well, Clara Cabbagestalk confronted her son-in-law, Sam Harmon, asking if he knew what had happened to Shakeima. He told her, quote, "I ain't hurt Shakeima. I love her just like Shirley do."
Okay.
Other relatives in Dillon told law enforcement officials that Harmon had made comments in the weeks after Shakeima's disappearance that, he knew how to dispose of a body.
Who says that in any context, unless you're just making some dumbass joke?
Many wondered why would that even come up, and why would Harmon say that to relatives of a missing child?
See, someone could say that as a dumb joke, but in a situation like this, when you have a missing child in a family, that would not be the time to make this stupid ass statement. And it's a really weird thing to say.
Like I said, the Cabbagestalks and the Harmons were big families in Dillon, a town where everybody knows you and your family. Like, if they saw you at the store, they would say, "Oh, that's Kathy's boy, right?"
"I saw Kathy's big-headed boy over there."
Right.
"How's he lug that thing around?"
So, I mean, it's like one of those situations, and the Cabbagestalks, the Harmons, I mean, these are big, large families in town, in a small town. So, again, people know each other.
Right.
Right? Yet, if anyone had information or details about Shakeima's disappearance, no one was talking. Despite the close-knit families, they were also not keeping Shakeima safe despite the allegations of sexual molestation. Sadly, Dillon, we see that a lot. There are many reasons why families choose to protect abusers. Maybe they don't want to believe that someone they know and love is capable of abuse. Maybe they're worried about what will happen if they speak up. And sometimes people believe the victim is lying or just making up stories.
Yeah. I think that is the first one you said is the big part of that. They just don't want to admit to themselves that this person who has a mask they pull down around everyone else and act all nice and, "Oh, he's so great with kids. I never would, blah, blah, blah." And they just don't want to believe it.
The choice to believe someone who says they were abused or the person saying they didn't do it, I mean, that seems like an easy choice to make, right? Yet often we see families and friends side with the abuser. When we choose to believe the abuser, I mean, you're basically telling the victim that their experience isn't valid. You're telling them that their pain isn't real or important. And you're telling them that their abuser is more worthy than they are. Sometimes we see victim blaming too, even in cases where children are involved. People might say things like, "They must have done something to deserve it."
Gee. God, that just pisses me off because it's so true. It's so true. Like, if she wasn't wearing those little, 5T shorts, I mean, what the freaking hell, dude?
Well, when you're a child, you're also faced with less options, which we kind of discussed that last week on the Gina Grant episode. You know, kids don't have the same options that adults have. Adults in abusive situations can simply leave, but children don't have that choice. Abusers, we know, can be manipulative and controlling. And I don't know for certain, Dillon, but I'm imagining in a town like Dillon where the economy maybe isn't so great during this time, perhaps Shirley, who had multiple children, depended on her husband's income to survive. Financial situations often make it difficult for victims to get out of these situations.
Well, yeah, what you're describing in her
Circumstances.
Her mother's mind might be, if she isn't telling the truth, it's going to blow her whole situation up. You see what I'm saying? Household, she doesn't know, if she is counting on his income. And so maybe she's worried. I mean, I get that to a degree, but you know what? I will go live behind a tree with my kids before I would ever, discount what they're saying. I mean, come on.
Well, instead, we see it with adults, whether it's domestic violence or, any other kind of abusive situation. Sometimes they choose to remain and protect the abuser because they feel like they don't have a choice, right? And like I said, I don't know what Shirley Harmon's situation was, but that just sort of popped in my head when I was researching that. Okay, well, maybe that's why.
Well, yeah, maybe, and she wants to, I don't know. It's such a tricky discussion, especially so far removed from the event and the people. But yeah, maybe she's just worried about all these different things at once. And that's a tough position to be in. It really is.
Studies have shown that Black children are twice more likely to experience sexual abuse than white children. The data is grim, Dillon. 1 in 4 Black girls will experience sexual abuse before the age of 18, according to the American Psychological Association. Between 2017 and 2022, sexual abuse was the most common form of reported abuse of children in the United States.
Yeah. I'm honestly surprised by that stat. You hear this in a lot of categories, underserved communities, people of color, but I'm actually surprised that they have a higher likelihood of being abused, and I wonder why.
Clinical psychologist Jamaica Woody Cooper says it's important for caregivers, adults, and parents to teach children about body autonomy. If a child doesn't want to hug or kiss someone, they shouldn't have to. She says it's important that children are taught how to exercise boundaries and say no. She said this, Dillon, quote, "Black folks need to have those difficult conversations about the secrecy that is often perpetuated in families. We avoid police because we don't want to embarrass the person, family member, or destroy their reputation. But we need to care more about the health and future of our children than the adults we sometimes protect." And I highly recommend, if anyone is interested in this topic, reading Lost Innocence, The Adultification of Black Children. It's a 7-part series written by Anissa Durham. And in that series, Dr. Sarah Flowers, she's the vice president of education at Planned Parenthood, who focuses on sex education centering on Black youth. She says in her experience, elders in the Black community talk about physical development of children as a direct correlation to being, quote, fast.
Oh, really?
Yet we know research says the opposite. The average age in girls' physical development starts somewhere maybe between 8 to 13 years old. Every girl is different, and no one controls the timing of puberty. So, you can't, it's not like something you can help.
So let me get this right. So if, say, a girl develops early, she's viewed as being like some type of way.
Yeah,
by other adults.
You've never heard that before?
Well, no. I've heard it.
I've seen it. I've experienced it. I know that it's a thing, and I'm not. Obviously, I'm I'm Caucasian. I'm not a Black or African American woman.
Wait, what?
So, I want to be careful speaking to this, but I've researched, as much as I could for this episode. And this is what, people who they out here knowing more than me saying, you know, people with doctorates and shit.
Learned.
But, you know, I think that is not just exclusive to the black community. I mean, as I said, I've heard things like that growing up.
Well, I've heard
Like girls who are developed and have big boobs and they're called sluts by adult women just because they have developed and they have large breasts. Like that girl has any control over what her body is doing. I mean, it's disgusting, but it happens. It's not unusual.
it is disgusting. I mean, it truly is disgusting. And what I'm getting from that is like they're viewing this young person as fast because they're ogling this young person. I mean, let's be honest. That's what's happening. And you get these gross people who, and this we were talking about this the other day privately. Remember back in the day, they were publicly ogling these young entertainers, having discussions about when they're going to turn 18 and how, making these off-color jokes about, you better not say that, it's a little too early. I mean, it's just fucking disgusting.
Britney Spears comes to mind.
Dude, they keep doing it, but it used to be
Those Disney stars.
All the Disney stars. And it's so how people like Howard Stern show, and things like that. It's just so disgusting. It's public pedophilia is what it is in my mind.
Well, adults are often assigning value to a body that they don't live in. So just because you're developed, you're voluptuous, an adult is saying, "Oh, you're this way," but you're a child. You're not. They're not living in your body. They don't know what you're thinking, you're feeling, or what you're doing.
No, it's ridiculous.
So assuming that children are more grown up than they are developmentally is the adultification, which is often confusing for preteens because they're hearing adults say these things about them, about their bodies, and they don't understand. Because they're still mentally children.
Gosh, that's really messed up.
I mean, it's like school dress codes. They usually fall on policing female students' clothing. It's the notion that certain bodies need to be policed because they're a distraction to other students. And it teaches girls that their natural bodies are the problem and that they have the responsibility to cover it up.
Yeah, I mean, that's no different than saying if she hadn't went out in that short skirt, she wouldn't have got raped. I mean, it's the beginnings of that mentality, and it's freaking disgusting. Like, tell your freaking stinky boys to freaking quit treating this woman like this.
And wear some deodorant.
And wash your ass.
Middle school boys, school boys and girls, they stank.
Look,
I'm just saying, they stank.
They don't have to, okay? They don't have to. They could shower more. I was a clean teen, all right? As soon as I started producing a musk, I was like, wow, I got to change my hygiene regimen.
They don't know.
No.
Ask teachers.
Well, no.
And most parents who have kids that age will tell
We
you.
have some of your son's stuff in a room right now, and the room smells like him.
Yes.
And it's been in storage for quite a while.
Yes.
So
Yes.
have you noticed that?
Oh, my son has a funk.
He's a little locker room.
And he will shower.
He will.
He will. He does.
Yeah.
But, gosh, teenagers, they have a funk.
I'm like, damn, dude, are you like a pro athlete or some shit? What's happening in here?
Yeah, I think so. It doesn't matter how many times you bleach those
No.
comforters. It don't matter. So just like saying that Shakeima's story wasn't consistent enough, the system was placing the burden of proof on a child and not the adult, and that's what's fucked up.
Agreed.
And it boils down to these same ideas of adultification of children. I mean, I just feel like all that kind of ties into our case.
Yeah, definitely.
So in the aftermath of Shakeima's disappearance, Shirley told the press, quote, "I take it day by day. It's bad. At nighttime, that's when it hits me. I call the police, and they say they haven't heard anything yet."
Just full of despair, wondering, worrying, driving yourself mad. I mean, it's just be such a horrible position to be in.
In that same newspaper publication, though, Dillon, the police department spokesperson said that Shirley had only called once to follow up on the case's status.
See, I take that it's either them covering their ass or Shirley's being untruthful. I mean, that's the only two options.
I mean, it's hard to know who to believe.
It's hard to know.
Because
it really is.
It's difficult to to consider that any parent would be just kind of nonchalant about their child going missing.
Right. Even if they weren't the greatest parent, and I'm not saying Shirley wasn't. I'm just saying even if they weren't before the event, most people are going to follow up to the point where the cops are like, look, stop calling. Okay. You're not helping anything.
Well, and it just makes me wonder, like, what would be the purpose of police saying this if it was not? I mean, what purpose does it serve?
Well, I mean, that's a good point.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know what kind of pressures they were under to solve this case. Sometimes there's tremendous pressure to get a result, figure it out by the community, local leaders.
But it does sound like, in a lot of these cases, when it's a missing person of color, they don't get a lot of attention. But it does sound like law enforcement, even when as far as bringing in SLED.
Right. And they did that early on.
Getting helicopter out. I mean, it sounds like this small town police department was doing everything they knew to do.
Yeah, because
in this missing persons case. And being a small town, I mean, they're underfunded. They probably don't have the resources. And let's be honest, this is probably a unique or unusual situation. They're probably not dealing with a lot of missing persons cases in a tiny little town.
It's not only resources, it's training, it's experience. Yeah. And when you reach out to a state agency like SLED, which is their GBI or their, what is it in North Carolina?
SBI, the State Bureau.
Yes, the SBI. You're bringing in
TBI in Tennessee.
A tremendous amount of not only resources and equipment and people, but experience and training. And these are all very important. And it seems like they reached out fairly early on in the investigation. It didn't seem like they wanted to, the pissing contest we always hear about between departments. And I mean, what can you do?
Well, in August 2005, after years with the case being cold, the Dillon County Prosecutor's Office brought charges against Sam Harmon for murder. He was also charged with 2 counts of kidnapping and 1 count of criminal sexual misconduct with a minor. So the 2 counts of kidnapping, one is related to that first reported time back in 1990.
Right.
And then the second would be the current situation where, Shakeima had gone missing.
So the first time when she made allegations that he tried to do something to her.
Yes.
Okay.
Prosecutors alleged that Sam Harmon had killed Shakeima Cabbagestalk despite having no body or forensic evidence. In 2008, Sam Harmon's trial began. There was a delay with his public defender, Sam Ingram, dying suddenly, so they had to get new attorneys. That's why it took like 3 years to get a trial. The district attorney's office believed that Sam Harmon's motive was covering up the molestation of his stepdaughter. During trial, Shakeima's uncle is the one who told the jury how Harmon had bragged about being able to hide a body in the weeks after her disappearance. Harmon's defense noted there was 0 physical evidence and no cause of death ever found. The death penalty was withdrawn, so prosecutors sought life in prison for Harmon. He was convicted. Oh
gosh.
We have a new kitty.
We have a co-host.
We do. We have a new little kitty. If you hear a meow, it's this tiny little baby. So the death penalty was withdrawn, and they sought life in prison, as I was saying. But he was convicted on the kidnapping charges, but not murder. Harmon was sentenced to 12 years in prison with time served because he had spent 3 years behind bars awaiting trial.
12 years in prison with time served?
Yes.
So he gets that 3 years off of the 12?
Yes.
Okay.
Shirley Harmon, from what I could find on the internet, moved to New York. She was arrested in 2016 for shoplifting. Sam Harmon is currently out of prison, but I'm not sure where he lives presently. I did find a Sam Harmon out of state, like not in South Carolina, but I don't know if that's the correct person, so I didn't want to report that.
Put him on Blast Street.
Shakeima has been missing for 31 years. She would be 41 years old now.
Well, let's be honest. Someone did something to her. I think there's no doubt about that. It's a matter of who. And this is a tricky situation, because if Mr. Harmon is indeed innocent, this is a horrible thing to be accused of and have to serve prison time for something you didn't do. But, I mean, what do you think?
I mean, I agree. If this is a wrongful conviction. He's wrongfully
That's a
accused.
nightmare in of itself.
That is terrible.
Right.
And obviously, this is a family who doesn't have a great deal of money. He's relying on a public defender. We know that even in the best of circumstances, you're probably not getting top-notch legal defense from a public defender.
No. No, they don't even talk to you, from what I can tell. Like, they learn about your case, like, as you're walking up to the, table to talk to the judge.
Yeah.
And they won't even let you ask questions.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just never seen anyone have a
So
good
that's
result.
Scary.
Right.
To think that you didn't commit a crime. You're being accused of something that's very, heinous.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Kidnapping, child molestation, murder.
Having a kind of sorry public defender on some minor charge might be one thing. But when you're facing, a huge, serious charges like kidnapping and murder, I mean, my gosh. I mean, you see people spend $150,000, $200,000 on a multiple lawyer team.
Yes.
In defense of something like this, and you're just not. I would be scared to death if I was indeed innocent, and I'm going to trial with a public defender. I mean, come on.
Well, the fact that his story was inconsistent and he told different people different stories. One minute he's with her at the store, but he left her there. That he's saying, well, I didn't see her the whole
Yeah.
To me, that is suspicious.
Well, look, it
makes you look guilty.
You're in a small town where some anonymous, child killer is going to have a harder time of operating. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knows everybody. People see things, even if you don't know that they're looking. So the likelihood of some, strange child killer sneaking into this place and getting her with no one seeing anything, not seeing a stranger, not seeing her talk to some odd person or anything like that, it's very low. And it doesn't mean it couldn't happen. But, I mean, come on. I think Sam's guilty. I mean, honestly.
I'm leaning toward that, yeah.
And no one ever no one ever came forward with information, No one ever said anything. And the reason for that, again, would be because he did it alone by himself, and he never told anyone what he did.
Yeah, I think so. Now, at the time of her disappearance, Shakeima was 3 foot 6 inches tall. So she was a little thing and weighed only 65 pounds.
Oh.
Just teeny-tiny. She has moles near the corner of her mouth and below her neck. Shakeima also has a double tooth on the upper side of her mouth at the time of her disappearance. So, kind of a different feature, right? Shakeima was very close to her brother and grandmother, and they believe if alive, she would have contacted them.
I agree.
Because, again, she adored her brother. She was super close with Clara. They just didn't think this little girl would disappear without getting in touch with them if she was alive.
How old was she when she went missing? What was it?
She was 10.
10. So she's big enough to remember. It's not like she was a little kid or a toddler.
If anyone out there has information leading to Shakeima, they can contact the Dillon Police Department at 843-841-3707. Well, as I said earlier in the episode, I discovered Shakeima's case as I was researching the Gina Grant case last week. And it just really, it just hit me in my feels. And I wanted to talk about Shakeima. Her story's important, and I wanted to get it out there.
Yeah, you have this beautiful little girl who is gone. Just gone. There's no telling what she could have done in life. You know what I mean?
I know her school picture, which I will share on social media, on Instagram and X. She's just the cutest, and she's got a big wide smile, and you can tell she's just full of energy. She's probably really fun. Looks like a little girl who probably would get out and play and just play her little heart out. I don't know. It's so sad.
It's so sad, and I feel for the family. There's still someone in her family, I'm sure, that wonders where she is every day.
Yeah.
Or wonders what truly happened to her.
That not having answers.
My gosh.
And you'd think after all this time, if someone did know something, that they would come forward by now.
Well, yeah.
I mean, even just a small detail.
This is the kind of thing that someone lets off their chest on their deathbed. I mean, really, it's a big deal. It's a big thing. So yeah, I'm afraid there will never be any more answers in a case like this, and that's probably the saddest part.
Well, Dillon, thank you for taking the time to sit down with me today and talk about Shakeima Cabbagestalk.
Poor little Shakeima.
I know,
What a
it's-
beautiful name.
I know, right?
Oh,
And like I said, she was such a cute kid. Well, if you're interested in the ad-free experience,
that's right.
an invite to our Discord chat, bonus episodes.
A lot of bonus
which
episodes.
We actually need to drop a bonus episode this week, Dillon. Find us on Patreon, patreon.com/Mountain Murders Podcast.
We've had quite a bit of activity there lately, new members, and we have some OGs, been there from the beginning, and we love you all, and we love all our listeners.
Yeah, I get a shout out on the show.
I love each and one of you, each and every one of you.
And Dillon, I'm going to drop a link in today's show notes for our merch store. It is poppin'. We've had repeat customers.
That sumbitch is on fire.
We've had folks reach out and say, I ordered some stuff, loved it, ordered a second batch.
I'm blown away by the quality of the stuff.
It's
people
really
are getting.
nice.
It's really good. Quality t-shirts, quality gear.
Quick. That is
Quick.
like one of the number one things that people are reporting back is like, not only is this like a great quality shirt, it's so well made, these stickers are beautiful, but they're shipping fast. Like
So-
you're not waiting like 2 months to get your stuff.
So you're not forgetting that you bought something from the Mountain Murders merch store?
No, it's arriving within like a few days.
Wow,
it
that's
just seems like
amazing.
people are getting their stuff like super quick, like a week or less.
And thank you so much. Once again, it humbles us. Thank you so much for the people who have already participated in the merch store. And we're so glad that everyone seems very, very happy with the result. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so maybe you need to check out the Mountain Murders merch store. You have a little something for everybody.
Girl, I done got all these bills paid up. I'm about to drop a big old blob on that store. I literally have like 10 things I want, and I'm not just saying that. And I want to thank you, Heather, for all these original designs.
You're welcome.
You're like a freaking whole team in one person.
You're welcome.
You know that?
Too bad no one pays me the big bucks, Dillon.
No, I orbit around you. You know that? You're my son.
You pay me the big bucks.
You're my son, baby.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're sweet.
Right? I just hope you never turn into a black hole.
You're like a little dwarf planet
A hole?
just floating around out there.
Do I have any satellites?
Mm-mm.
None?
Mm-mm.
Do I have an atmosphere?
I don't know.
Oh, gosh. Is there any life on
you
me?
probably have an atmosphere. It's surrounded by gas.
There is
Lots
a
of-
gassy
lots of gas.
atmosphere. Thank you.
All right, Dillon. We'll be back with our midweek here in a day or so.
Yes.
You take care, Dillon.
You too.
Have a great week, y'all.
Bye.
Stay cool out there.
Oh, gosh. Don't be sweaty like me.
It's hot. Bye.